So yeah, some of the worst things that customers ever say in wholesale. I think the one that annoys me the most, and this one is going to need an analogy, is I'm going to launch a low-cost MVNO, and so I need the same rate as insert the cheapest person with the biggest volume in that market. Discuss.
No. I mean, my view on this is quite a strong one, and when I hear that, my heart normally sinks. I mean, ultimately,
You've been on the other side of this, haven't you? I've had to just present people with this misconception. You've actually had them coming into you when you're Vodafone. They were coming to you in all seriousness.
No, absolutely, and the I mean, I can get onto the Vodafone in a bit, but I mean, like if you start the very highest level in business, realistically, I mean, I know people have got professorships and written books that you know that would take hours to burn, but they're so thick. But ultimately, there are two strategies. You've got differentiation, or you've got price led. And if you're price led, you've got to own the underlying asset and the cost base. And if you're differentiation, typically that business model, well, both typically have a shelf life, and therefore you have to innovate. And with differentiation, I've always worked therefore for a premium brand, because the brand has value, and the innovation, you have time to innovate. If you're a low cost innovator, particularly in telco, you can all go wrong very quickly.
Or execute copying successful innovation well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was the first ever iPhone. There was nothing new on the first ever. All that technology existed. They put it together, packaged it, and sold it under what very obviously is the best brand in the world from MPS viewpoint, and it sold in volume because they've done the research.
Well, it was, but I mean, it was the first one was 2G. I remember the Nokia CEO going up was it MWC and laughing, going, "Yeah, right, a 2G smartphone. Good luck, Apple." And then a few months later, he's like, "Did I say that? I didn't say that, did I? No, that must have. Yeah, something's happened." But ultimately, when I hear that, and I've challenged a few people, and they take it in and then they go back. But it's a bit like going up to somebody in a bar and saying, "I'd like to go out with you." And when they say no or why or get out of here, you go, "But you went out with Matilda or Freddie or whoever. So why wouldn't you?" It's like, well, you're not them. And so when someone goes in a wholesale, I mean, it's bad enough even if they're a big company. I mean, sometimes it's even harder to explain because you've got massive companies with massive potential wanting to come in, but without any volume. And what they're asking is basically for the MNO to gamble on them.
Yeah.
But this has been going on long enough to know that the odds aren't great. Mm-hmm. This is like, again, going to the bar and saying, "I'm going to be a gazillionaire. You want to be with me?" And it's like, yeah. I don't know if these analogies, but I think these analogies, I know sometimes they're a bit tired, but the problem is whereas I used to have this every so often, now we're getting it. I mean, it seems, I don't know whether it's the barrier to entry is coming down, that, more people are coming in, but I mean, you just can't expect to, have a corner shop and get Walmart prices. I mean, it's just.
No, and I mean, if you look at it from a network perspective, like I said, if you're going to go through cost route as your strategy, you've got to own the underlying asset, which means owning the mass. And the reality in telco, more particularly mobile, is the networks do not know what their cost is because it's what you attribute to the call or to data. So,
and they've got a depreciating asset,
and they've got a depreciating asset, and I think and therefore obviously there are technical investment budgets are huge, and the strategy is changing to open RAN or close RAN or whatever it is at that moment in time. So wholesale, yes, is seen as additional revenue, but then there's the cannibalization issue and all the rest of it. So, and I guess ultimately, technically, they're not geared up actually to do wholesale because they built a network, and most of them are the same. They've built a network. I know that's changing a bit, particularly in Asia with 5G and standalone 5G networks. But They've built a network to service their own customers. And if you want to then come in and do your own brand, well, they can probably only do 1 or 2 a year, which is why the whole MVNX industry got going. And therefore they look at that with suspicion. So going in and said, well, look, can you give me a data rate which is 50% of what the market rate, and I promise you, but build it and they will come. Well, they've been burnt too many times.
Yep.
And so realistically, the short answer is a conversation with us or anybody else is the same. You come and say, I need the lowest price. Well, you probably, with every supplier you pick, you'll be able to get a low price somewhere, but it's a trade-off against the functionality that you get for that. And the only long-term strategy, quite frankly, is you build a bit of volume, we go back and renegotiate. That gives you additional, because hopefully your proposition is price elastic, that then drives more volume. You go back and 2 or 3 of these steps, each conversation becomes easier because you've done it and you've proved it. And eventually you get the prices that what you need to drive a mass market business. But even then you still need innovation. Even then it can disappear fairly quickly. And ultimately, in the meantime, to build that volume, what is a USP?
But it comes to another topic that we did earlier for another video of essentially the networks are quite happy to sell off. Wholesale is around getting rid of excess capacity.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's typically, the older stuff, not the innovative stuff, the stuff that you start getting excess capacity. And before, obviously, that would have been 2G before 3G. But then people come along and say, and so what network operators were trying to do, I mean, in the first MVNO deal that I was working on 20 years ago, they were trying to price, the price during the day when they had capacity issues was double the price of the price when the network was empty. And the first MVNOs took that and go, okay, we can build with that. But that was a win-win for everybody. Whereas right now, people are saying, I want it to be cheap. I want the capacity everywhere. I don't want to be bothered geo-forecasting. So, if I'm going to be make your network super busy for my customers at the cost of your customers, I don't care. And I want 5G. I want everything new and streaming, but I want it at these rock bottom prices. Thank you very much. And it just, I know maybe it's because supermarkets have driven this mentality and driven, everything out of the high street that we now need in this new, everybody, but it's not sustainable. And it's, you can't just go around. Ultimately the networks are not going to have a situation where they're selling their premium product at a discount under another brand. And I think the point you get off was brilliant, because they own the loan. Not only do they own the underlying asset and the depreciating asset, but ultimately low cost they can do themselves. It's the easiest thing in the world when you've got a marketing team the size of a network operator to go, guess what? All of that work we've done in the latest marketing campaign. Why? Just not the price.
Yeah.
What value are you adding by doing something so simple that they don't do themselves? But anyway.
And that's a well-trodden path. Look, I think the summary here, Christian, is a simple one. You can get to the price that you think you want, and I actually question the think you want rather than the you want. But you can get the price that you think you want. But I think the journey you take to get to that price isn't what you think.
You've got to prove it.
Exactly.
Good. Okay.
Thank you for that.
Well, we fixed that. That's good. We'll move on to next. I think lunchtime, isn't it?
Indeed.
Our work here is done.